The Shadow Man. The old family house stood as a looming sentinel on the edge of town, its weathered facade concealing secrets that had been whispered through generations. Nestled among ancient oaks that seemed to weep in sorrow, the house had been in the Montague family for centuries. But now, in the dead of night, as a chilling wind whistled through the gnarled branches, the Montagues were beginning to wonder if they were the true masters of their ancestral home. Sarah Montague had always been drawn to the house's eerie allure. As a child, she would explore its dusty corridors, imagining ghosts lurking around every corner. It wasn't long before the stories began to circulate, tales of spectral figures and strange occurrences. But Sarah dismissed them all as mere superstition, until the night she saw the Shadow Man. It was a moonless night when Sarah awoke with a start, her heart pounding as though it wanted to escape her chest. She lay in bed, shrouded in darkness, trying to dismiss the unease that had settled over her. The air felt colder, damper, as if a spectral presence had entered her room. A faint rustling noise reached her ears, like the soft whisper of footsteps on aged floorboards. Her breath caught in her throat, and she strained her eyes in the direction of the sound. There, at the foot of her bed, stood a shadowy figure, an indistinct silhouette in the inky blackness. Fear clawed at her as she watched the figure. It was tall, impossibly so, and seemed to stretch upwards, merging with the ceiling. Its limbs hung loosely at its sides, swaying gently, as if suspended in an otherworldly dance. Unable to tear her gaze away, Sarah watched in horror as the figure's head turned slowly to face her. There were no eyes, no discernible features, only a palpable sense of malevolence that seeped into her very soul. She felt as if it were peering into the darkest recesses of her mind, plucking her deepest fears and doubts from the depths of her consciousness. With a guttural, otherworldly growl, the figure surged forward, its shadowy form extending toward her. Sarah's scream tore through the night, piercing the stillness of the house. In an instant, the figure dissipated, vanishing into the darkness. Sarah's parents rushed to her side, concern etched across their faces. They listened as she recounted the nightmarish encounter, but their expressions remained skeptical. Her father, Richard Montague, attempted to calm her, attributing the experience to a mere nightmare. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah's life became a whirlwind of sleepless nights and anxiety. The Shadow Man returned, night after night, each time growing bolder. It would glide through her room, whispering sinister secrets in an ancient tongue that sent shivers down her spine. Desperation led her to research the history of the house, unearthing long-buried family records that spoke of an ancestor dabbling in dark occult practices. It was said that he had summoned a malevolent entity, a shadowy figure, to do his bidding. The entity had been bound to the house, lurking in the shadows for centuries. Sarah knew she had to confront the darkness that plagued her family. Armed with knowledge gleaned from forbidden texts and guided by an innate determination, she embarked on a journey to free her family from the curse that had lingered for generations. On a fateful night, as the moon hung heavy in the sky, Sarah stood at the threshold of her room, a circle of salt at her feet and an ancient incantation upon her lips. The air grew cold, and the room was bathed in an eerie blue light as the Shadow Man materialized once more. But this time, Sarah was ready. She spoke the incantation with unwavering resolve, her voice unwavering as she commanded the entity to depart. The Shadow Man writhed and contorted, its inhuman cries reverberating through the house. For a moment, it seemed as though it would resist, but then, with a deafening roar, it dissipated into nothingness, leaving behind a sense of profound emptiness. The house, once plagued by malevolence, seemed to sigh with relief as an overwhelming stillness settled over it. Sarah's parents, who had once been skeptics, stood in awe of their daughter's courage and determination. As time passed, the Montague house regained its former tranquility, and the Shadow Man became nothing more than a distant memory. Sarah's nights were once again peaceful, and the darkness that had clung to her family's legacy began to recede. But the house, with its ancient oaks and centuries of secrets, would forever bear the scars of its haunted past. It stood as a testament to the power of one brave soul's determination to confront the darkest of horrors and banish them into the shadows from which they came. And so, The Montague family house endured, its secrets buried once more, waiting for the next generation to uncover its mysteries. Years passed, and the Montague family house remained a place of tranquility and calm. Sarah had moved away, leaving behind the shadows of her childhood and the malevolent entity she had banished. She had always hoped that her family would live in peace, free from the terrors that had haunted them for generations. The old house, once steeped in darkness, now bathed in the warmth of sunlight filtering through the windows. It was as if the very walls had absorbed the newfound serenity. Sarah's parents, Richard and Eleanor, enjoyed their twilight years there, surrounded by cherished memories and a sense of security. But the past, they say, has a way of lingering, like a dormant spectre waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. One chilly autumn evening, as Richard sat by the fireplace, engrossed in a book, a soft, chilling breeze swept through the room. He shivered, attributing it to a draft, but his unease grew as the temperature continued to drop. Eleanor, in the adjacent room, noticed the change as well. She felt the hair on the back of her neck stand on end and heard an eerie whispering that seemed to emanate from the very walls. It was a sound she recognized all too well, a sinister, inhuman voice that sent a shiver down her spine. In a panic, Eleanor rushed to Richard's side, her eyes wide with fear. She whispered urgently, "Richard, it's back. The Shadow Man is back." Richard's heart raced as he remembered the stories of his daughter's nightmarish encounters. He had dismissed them as the product of an overactive imagination, but now, facing the cold presence that had infiltrated their home, doubt gnawed at him. Together, they retreated to their bedroom, seeking refuge in the fading daylight. They knew they had to confront the malevolent entity once again. In the dim light, they gathered a few relics of their daughter's research, the ancient texts, the circle of salt, and the incantation that had once banished the Shadow Man. As night fell and the house grew colder, the whispering grew louder and more insistent. Shadows danced on the walls, elongating and taking on eerie, unnatural shapes. The entity was drawing near, and the air was thick with dread. Richard and Eleanor stood at the center of their bedroom, the circle of salt surrounding them, and began to chant the incantation. Their voices trembled, but their determination remained unwavering. The room filled with an eerie blue light, and the malevolent presence materialized before them, more sinister and menacing than they had remembered. The Shadow Man roared, a deafening cacophony that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house. It reached out toward them with shadowy tendrils, trying to break their resolve. But Richard and Eleanor held firm, reciting the incantation louder and more forcefully. As they continued their battle with the entity, Sarah, now a grown woman, received an urgent message from her parents. She had long put her past behind her, but the distress in their voices compelled her to return to the family house. When she arrived, she found her parents exhausted but resolute. With her help, they intensified their efforts to banish the Shadow Man once and for all. Together, they chanted the incantation, their voices merging into a powerful, unyielding force against the malevolent entity. With one final, agonized scream, the Shadow Man was forced to retreat, its form dissipating into the darkness, leaving behind only an echoing cry that faded into nothingness. The house, once again, was bathed in silence and stillness. As the years passed, the Montague family house remained a place of peace. Sarah, Richard, and Eleanor had confronted the darkness that had plagued their family for generations, and they had triumphed. The Shadow Man, bound by the incantation, would never return to torment them. The house, with its ancient oaks and enduring secrets, stood as a symbol of resilience. It was a testament to the power of family and the strength of love and determination. The Montagues had banished the darkness that had haunted their home, and in its place, they had forged a legacy of courage and unity that would endure for generations to come. In the aftermath of their harrowing battle with the Shadow Man, the Montague family house stood as a beacon of resilience and unity. Sarah, Richard, and Eleanor had faced down the malevolent entity and banished it once and for all. They had hoped that their victory would bring an end to the curse that had plagued their family for generations, but they knew that they could never let their guard down completely. Life returned to a semblance of normalcy in the Montague house. Sarah continued to visit her parents regularly, and they reveled in the newfound peace that had settled over their home. The air no longer carried the chilling whispers of the shadow man, and the ancient oaks seemed to sway with a sense of relief. However, as the years passed, a subtle unease lingered beneath the surface. The house, though free from the malevolent entity, bore the scars of its dark history. Strange occurrences continued to unfold, reminding the Montagues that their family's connection to the supernatural world ran deep. Late at night, the old grandfather clock in the hallway would chime on its own, its somber notes echoing through the empty house. Paintings on the walls would inexplicably shift, their subjects appearing to move when no one was watching. And occasionally, in the quiet hours before dawn, the faint sound of whispered conversations could be heard, as if the walls themselves retained the secrets of generations past. Sarah, ever the curious and determined soul, delved deeper into her family's history. She uncovered journals and letters, some written by ancestors long gone, others by individuals who had crossed paths with the Montague family over the centuries. These writings told of encounters with the supernatural, of mysterious occurrences, and of a lineage intertwined with the occult. One journal in particular, belonging to her great-great-grandfather, revealed a startling revelation. He had uncovered a hidden chamber deep within the bowels of the house, a chamber filled with forbidden tomes and artifacts of dark magic. It was there that he had first made contact with the shadow man, unknowingly unleashing its malevolence upon the family. Sarah knew that the secrets of this hidden chamber held the key to fully severing the family's ties to the supernatural world. Armed with this newfound knowledge, she embarked on a perilous journey to locate and destroy the cursed artifacts. The journey led her through labyrinthine passages hidden beneath the house, each step fraught with danger and uncertainty. The air grew colder, and whispers of the past echoed in the dark, but Sarah pressed on. At last, she reached the chamber, its entrance concealed behind an ornate tapestry. Inside, she found a trove of ancient texts and artifacts, each radiating a palpable sense of malevolence. With unwavering resolve, she began to gather the cursed items, intent on destroying them. As she did, a chilling presence filled the chamber, and the shadow man materialized before her, more furious and vengeful than ever. Sarah knew that she had to confront the entity once again. With the ancient texts in her hand, she recited an incantation passed down through generations of her family, a powerful spell of binding and banishment. The chamber trembled, and the malevolent presence writhed in agony. As the incantation reached its climax, a blinding light erupted, forcing the shadow man to dissipate once more. The chamber, now cleansed of its dark artifacts, fell silent. Sarah emerged from the hidden depths of the house, victorious but weary. She had finally severed the last ties to the supernatural that had haunted her family for centuries. The Montague house, once a place of darkness and secrets, was now bathed in a newfound light. Years passed, and the Montague family's legacy shifted from one of fear to one of strength and resilience. The house, once marked by malevolence, stood as a symbol of their unwavering determination to confront the darkest of horrors. Sarah's parents, Richard and Eleanor, passed away in peace, their final years filled with the warmth of family and the knowledge that the shadow man had been banished forever. Sarah continued to visit the house, now a place of solace and reflection, where she could honor her family's legacy and the strength that had bound them together. And so, the Montague family house endured, its secrets buried forever, its walls echoing with the stories of those who had triumphed over darkness. It was a testament to the power of love, determination, and the unbreakable bond of family, a bond that had ultimately banished the shadows that had haunted them for generations.